It's April 5th, 2022. This is the Wrestling Inc. podcast. I'm Restless Glenn Rubenstein with Alfred Konuwa here tonight to talk about NXT, the aftermath of Stand and Deliver. It happened Saturday morning. One of the championships already changed hands back. Next week, more will probably change. Alfred, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Fun WrestleMania weekend. Kind of back to normal. This is the last of, well, no, we still got SmackDown after WrestleMania, but WrestleMania is kind of dissipating now, and you still saw a kind of hot crowd, even though they weren't in Dallas, but I thought it was a fine show.
They should have done this in Dallas. They should have done Stand and Deliver tonight in Dallas, not this Saturday morning shit.
Yeah, they should have found somewhere, some smaller building in Dallas and done this show. Because I really wasn't a fan of this crowd tonight. We'll get into it.
No, what was with that crowd tonight? They were like angry in general.
I feel like they were trying to be like a Raw after Mania crowd, but they just ended up being pesky and annoying.
Yes, pesky and annoying. Take that, Performance Center crowd, former Full Sail crowd, now going to the Capitol Wrestling Center.
Yeah,
but we'll talk a little bit about Stand and Deliver. Joe Gacy on Stand and Deliver cut the most batshit insane promo in WWE history.
In history, wow.
Don't you think? I can't think of anything quite like that promo.
I mean, the Ultimate Warrior has got a catalog of promos that I thought were pretty bad shit, but
I mean, the location and the message.
Crazy.
The location and the message.
He's a very twisted man.
Very twisted man, very invoking national tragedy, but we'll talk about that. See, I'm teasing it. I'm saying it's the most crazy ever, because then they want to stick around if he just said, one of the more controversial or interesting choices of promo. People are like, I can change the channel. I can go see what JD's talking about. I can go see what else is going on. But no, I say the most batshit crazy, and the people are like, shit, well, I got to stay tuned in for this.
Use extremes. I like it. I'm interested to see what the breakdown is.
All hyperbole tonight on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Because we just had the most stupendous weekend in professional wrestling. Alfred, let's start with the most incredible news in the world of professional wrestling. What do we got?
Let's do that. One of the biggest Raws in the history of this business happened this past Monday. Last night's Raw did a massive number, 2.101 million average. It opened with a pretty big 2.318 million, and then the second hour did 2.14. So this is really the first time I can remember in years that ever since Raw became kind of the B show and SmackDown took over as the A show on Fox, first time I can remember in a long time that Raw did 2 million viewers in 2 straight hours. And then they plummeted in the third hour to 1.871. And it does not surprise me, because that Raw after Mania, even though it was a Raw after Mania and the biggest Raw of the year, really had nothing happening Raw. There was not too much outside of Cody's promo, which I thought was incredible. After that, it was just an episode of Raw. You had your mandatory heel turn happen with MVP. You know, of course, Rhea Ripley's going to turn heel next week. We had Damian Priest already turn heel. We had Edge turn heel. So that happens on every Raw. So that's not that much of a thing. And then when you had the big Ezekiel storyline that we're going to talk about, which was your only surprise return, but we can't consider that a return because Ezekiel's Elias's brother, Glenn.
Wait, really? That's the angle they're going with?
Yes, that's actually going to be one of our news stories. So let's just push it up here. Is that Holy Ezekiel shit. Is back. If you've seen pictures of this man, he's completely clean shaven. He's still got his long hair. He walked out. I thought it was just a job guy going out there to wrestle Kevin Owens. Nobody reacted to this guy. And it wasn't until he started talking that I realized this is Elias. And that's his new storyline, is that he's going to be Elias's brother, Ezekiel.
And he will say, you walk with Elias, you run with Ezekiel, and you better keep up, because I'm not slowing myself down for you.
Yeah, he's going to run. He's going to hit the ropes. He's going to be doing leapfrogs. He's in his worker gear, man. He's wearing worker boots now. He's got his trunks on.
Now, are they going to is Elias like away on vacation? Are they going to split screen this Patty Duke style? Will there be some twin magic?
Yes.
That's what we need. He goes under the ring and he has a quick gear change and comes out and switches personas.
I do think we're going to see Elias in some form of fashion in a fake beard. And, you know, as the chat's pointing out, of course, Veer is the reason that Raw drew that number. Let's not play around, of course. The world wanted to see Veer, so Veer is just going to draw numbers no matter what. And that was a fun thing that they did with him. Not as ironic as I thought it would be, but just kind of playing it straight. But Veer, yeah, Elias and Ezekiel thing, I'm intrigued. We'll see how this goes.
Well, Veer finally came last night, and the world is in a refractory period today for NXT. But no, I think with Elias, I mean, this is, you know, I've been watching Baskets lately on FX where Zach Galifianakis plays his own twin brother.
Great show.
And I think we just really need twin antics with Elias and Ezekiel, much like Chippendale baskets.
Are we going to get Elias and Ezekiel as tag team champions where every match there's going to be an
God.
excuse as to why one of them isn't ringside?
We need that. We need that. Wow, Hip Hop Hippie saying, Glenn, you look exhausted, but still handsome as hell. And I slept last night. I probably got a decent 9 hours last night.
I do like the suit. I think this suits you well. I think you should be doing this every week.
I ordered a bunch of clothes for Mania weekend, and then we didn't cover Stand and Deliver live. People just had to subsist and get by, Alfred, on my exclusive behind-the-scenes scoops on Stand and Deliver that I posted Friday night on Twitter. If you haven't checked that out, go give it a look through. You will learn something.
Even a retweet from Stand and Deliver's own Lou Diamond Phillips, I understand.
Yes. But Hip Hop Hippie has busted me. I'm not wearing pants. I'm just wearing the top part of the suit. I have gym shorts on. So, got to keep it comfortable.
Pants are overrated. I almost never wear pants for this podcast. Exclusive.
Mia Lee, $4.99 asking, is Toxic Attraction the female Undisputed Era? Braun's a bad SOB. That ending was crazy. Maybe we'll see his uncle made an appearance. The crowd was lit tonight. The crowd was angry. The crowd was close to lighting garbage on fire and tossing it in the ring with their palpable anger for many of the segments.
Yes. You know what I don't like about this crowd is there's this new trend in NXT where they're indecisive now, where there always have to be detractors. So if you chant something, there has to be half the crowd saying, no, you don't. So we want Ziggler. No, we don't. And then there is just like, you are awesome. No, you're not. Or there's just always that backlash, and I can't stand that.
I understand. It is a little confusing. Yeah, man. And that ending tonight, we'll talk about it. That was a crazy ending. They haven't done something like that in ages.
And you know what? It is reminiscent of NXT 1.0 because they did the thing where they showed the Chiron where, all rights reserved, all that stuff. Yeah. And then it goes away. And then they run the angle, which is something I always loved about the NXT 1.0 pay-per-views. At the end of a takeover, you'd have to really wait until the very end because they would wait to the last minute to roll out some big storyline twist. And I thought that was well done. It's
killed me, and I'm such a mark because Sunday at Mania and last night on Raw, same thing. I'm like, oh, now The Rock's going to come out, right? Like now we think it's ended, and we're like, oh, that's it. But now The Rock's going to come out, and like, no, that was really it.
Yeah, for a while afterwards, after they stopped doing that, I would kind of sit and wait to see what's coming next after the credits roll, and then they would just end the show. And so it was good to see that tonight.
Yes. What else we got in the news?
Well, our final story is Logan Paul. So it looks like he's headed for a babyface turn. Logan Paul stole the show at WrestleMania. I thought he was fantastic as a heel. I thought he fits right into the wrestling world. But it looks like Logan Paul has reportedly negotiated a babyface turn into his deal with WWE. It is in his contract, according to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, that Logan Paul is to be a babyface down the line. I don't agree with this at all. I mean, here's the thing. It's hard enough getting any type of reaction from people. It's hard enough being considered you're a natural babyface or a natural heel. That means people care enough to react to you somehow. So Logan Paul's got all this built-in heat. Everybody knows that this guy is kind of skews heel, and I think he needs to be running with this in a wrestling promotion. But it looks like he wants to be cheered as a babyface. You think that's going to work out, Glenn?
I don't know. And here's the thing. I don't know much about Logan Paul because I'm in my 40s. He is... he's had controversy. He's outspoken. I don't think you're supposed to like him. I think even his fans maybe think he's sort of like he's like the human equivalent of Calvin, like peeing on a Ford logo. Like that's my take on who Logan Paul is. That's your shtick. And it pains me to say this. He looked phenomenal in the ring. And good thing Issa's not here. I think his performance was actually up there with Bad Bunny in terms of. And in fact, I'll go one step further. Bad Bunny, when he was doing some of his rope moves, Bad Bunny looked like, I'm a fan and I'm living my dream. Logan Paul just looked like, I'm just here and I'm wrestling. There was none of that. There was none of that. This is my moment sort of things,
I 100%, I'll take it. We love Issa, but I thought he looked better than Bad Bunny. I thought Bad Bunny was great. Bad Bunny looked good, and he did a good job with his spots and really kind of overachieved there. Logan Paul, I'm watching this guy like, this guy should be a wrestler.
Yeah.
Like, not that I don't think, Bad Bunny is a hip-hop superstar, and he's good at doing the moves that they rehearse and stuff like that. I was looking at Logan Paul like, They could bring him in as like a legit part-timer with storylines and everything like that, where it's not some celebrity attraction. It's an actual wrestler. This guy should be working. Like he's that good, I think.
I don't know enough about him to put him over in any other context, except to say in the ring, he looked like he belonged there. It was, and so much so that I'll admit this, when that match started, a lot of people probably did the same thing I did, where they're like, what's going on Twitter? I'm going to check my phone. Oh, same old. Miz and his celebrity heel guy are going to get beat up. Watch this thing when the Mysterios do, their dual 619s. And then when I started paying attention, it was just like, holy shit. And then when I watched the replays of the match, it was just, shocking. This was shockingly credible performance.
Very great. Doing a lot of the little things that, usually celebrities don't know to do. They're so in their heads remembering their moves that they have to do. This guy was just fit right into the wrestling world.
Yeah, this wasn't Johnny Knoxville or Colin Jost or somebody where they're like, oh, I'm having fun with it, making fun of the tropes, or Bad Bunny having his childhood dreams fulfilled. Yeah, this was shockingly credible.
Yeah. And I really don't go to his YouTube. I'm very familiar with his boxing. I was one of the people who were curious to see him box Floyd Mayweather and see that kind of stuff. But I really don't know what he's famous for. I just know that he's a YouTuber. I know he does podcasting and he raps too. And he's got a huge following. And if he incorporates his wrestling into that, his following is going to eventually come with him. If this is one of the things that he's routinely doing, I think WWE needs to invest in this. Their audience needs to get younger and cooler. And like, this is Logan Paul. You say what you will about him, but he's a crossover star. He's a younger guy who appears to women, who raps. So maybe you can get some of the Black culture audience with him. But Logan Paul is in mainstream culture, and he's the type of star that needs to be on pro wrestling in order for it to be somewhat mainstream again.
There you go. I think he goes over the Miz in this feud.
Yeah, I can see it. I can absolutely see it. And if he's a babyface, it's a big mistake. If they don't change the course and they have to honor that contract, I think it's a huge mistake to make him a babyface because they're not going to treat him that way.
Yeah. No, it was very shocking. One of the biggest surprises of the weekend.
Yeah. What was the bigger surprise?
That's a good question. Cody wasn't really a surprise.
Yeah, I was going to,
Stone Cold wasn't really a surprise. We sold it like it was a surprise.
But. Maybe night two. Maybe Stone Cold night two. When they were actually doing the angle, you can kind of see where it was going. Maybe, but
Vince's panic looked when Theory's music hit.
I love that. He just looks around like he had PTSD or something, and he reacted to Austin Theory's music like Austin came out, like the other Austin came out. I thought that was hilarious. I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah. Pat McAfee did really well. Austin was a lot of fun. Yeah, so maybe Logan was like the biggest genuine surprise because, like I said, I wrote that match off as, maybe I'll take a nap, get something to eat. Like, I had no expectations for that, and he was shockingly good.
Yeah.
Brian Berry, $4.99, saying Elias must have gone into Matt Hardy's Lake of Reincarnation.
I'm here for this. I know people like their professional wrestling a certain way, but I'm all for zaniness in wrestling when it clicks. Like, who knows if this is going to click? Yes, there is a universe where they do this angle, and it's like the worst angle we see all year. That could very much happen. But I can also see this. And Elias is a performer. We've got to give him credit. This guy's an incredible performer. Maybe not the greatest wrestler, but he's a very good performer. And I do think he'll be able to pull this off. I hope they don't go too hokey with this, but I hope they do it in a campy enough way that gets people on their side.
Yeah. Stellar Justin Lopez, $1.99, saying this is going to lead to Miz and Paul at WrestleMania in LA. I'll be shocked if they wait that long.
Yeah, this isn't the type of angle I think they're going to invest a year in. But maybe we get the Paul brothers versus Miz and Morrison.
The hot tag, Morrison would have to come back.
Yeah, the returning Morrison.
Hot Tag Wrestling Podcast, $5. And given Logan Paul's history, he's tried hard to change his public perception, so the face turn makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's got to have something to do with like his PR team saying that if he's seen as a babyface in WWE, it'll help rehabilitate his image. But again, he needs to learn about this wrestling business, man, because when stories like this get out, and the people who read these stories, unfortunately, they constitute as a lot of WWE's audience who goes to these shows. So just like when it's leaked that the office is high on Roman Reigns, and people say, "Oh, I'll show you. I'll be the judge of that," and then they turn on Roman Reigns. This is one of those things where now that this is out there that he wants to be a babyface, people are going to do the opposite. Just like Will Smith saying, keep my wife's name out of your mouth. No, people are doing the opposite now. Like, you don't go and broadcast things like this. I know he didn't try to, but the fact that it leaked, it's gonna be very tough for him.
Brian Barry 499 saying Edge and Priest is the House of Black if you order off Wish. Wow.
Well, that was a tweet that was sent by Brody King, I believe, and he got a lot of back. A lot of people started crying about it, and he had to tweet that he was just kidding, relax. But it is a little House of Blackie. I could see it. I don't know. It's not really clicking, and it definitely didn't click last night when poor Priest was struggling through that promo, and fans were chanting that they were idiots. And what were they saying? We are losers, and then they were saying that we are sheep. So this is a kind of a mess of a promo from these two. Not the greatest rollout.
After Mania is always tough. I watched last night. I mean, I didn't watch the first hour. I tuned in for the second hour. So I missed Cody's promo, but it was just like after a hot weekend of wrestling, no podcast last night. I was like, oh, let's turn this on and watch this for fun. It's very strange experience.
Yeah. What was it like? What did you think of seeing Cody in WWE on an episode of Raw?
I didn't see the promo. I saw the cuts because I saw the dark match footage after as well. It is kind of crazy to me. Just the whole. This would have been kind of like if Dr. Dre released The Chronic and then went back to Ruthless Records and signed a partnership with Jerry Heller. That's what this was kind of like.
Or like Dre going to Death Row now. Or you know what it's like? It's like Snoop. He became the CEO of Death Row.
A little different.
Different. So, it'd be a little different if Cody bought WWE, but it's a little similar.
Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, this is a fun time. A lot going on. And this is part of the reason why Saturday Stand and Deliver was such a freaking afterthought. And by the way, I don't know if your thoughts about this. I don't want to kill the high of our love for the NXT 2.0, but then we get on the Mania podcast and both Raj and Justin are like, oh, WWE can't wait to get out of that USA deal. Just take this back to pure developmental, yada. Like basically NXT, like we shouldn't be doing this in public anymore. Like NXT is just straight up on its way out. Was their attitude?
I would not be surprised if USA Network decided that they weren't happy with the viewership. I think the viewership is fine. I don't think it's like a disaster or it's fallen off a cliff. It is lower than NXT 1.0 considerably, actually. But some nights are scary in terms of, especially what they do in 18 to 49. But I mean, I could see this going on in terms of as long as WWE is in bed with USA Network has to be very careful with WWE. Once upon a time, USA Network had a very high standard for what they wanted in terms of viewership. And like there was that Tough Enough show that actually did very well, but it wasn't good enough for USA, so they pulled it. This is a different world. WWE is like everything to USA right now. If they don't have WWE, they don't have a network, really. So I don't think they have the leverage to be like, okay, we're going to pull NXT because it's not doing that well, because they don't have anything else. They don't have any shows anymore that they're able to really captivate people with the way they.
And WWE is turning a profit on it. They have to be.
Well, not NXT, the brand. I mean, it is a money loser in terms of having to train those guys, having to do all that stuff.
$30 million from USA
doesn't hurt. Yeah, exactly. As a television show, that
helps greatly.
Yes.
What I'm saying, the cost difference of doing TV, still, it's a net positive. The extra work, because what would happen otherwise? You just keep everyone on $30,000 a year contracts. Don't put them on TV, but they still have the performance center. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have to do it either exclusively on WWE Network, maybe go on the road a little bit. It could be a blessing in disguise if this TV show got canceled, because it is a tough thing having to see these athletes develop before your eyes, because then it's like maybe for some of these people, you're always going to see them as somebody who's not that good, and you're going to be biased toward it even as they are improving. And that's not fair to them.
You know what it was? It was USA, because back when it was on the network, we had no clue what the ratings were. And it was seen as a smashing success.
Yes.
And they go on the road and you hear about these sellouts, that's the key. The ratings are what hurt them. Sean Wiley, $5. 1, Braun Breaker is a beast. Here, Cody will beat Roman. Wow. 2, Tony D'Angelo is going to be an interesting anti-hero face.
Yeah, the Tony D segment was pretty interesting tonight. Love Tony D'Angelo, but the AJ Galante portion of it was not as smooth. But listen, as I tweeted, I would be nervous if I was around the goat too. I wouldn't even be able to talk, Glenn. Yes. I wouldn't even be able to know what to say.
Brian Barry, $1.99. Wonder if Butch challenges Roman. Probably not.
If they have 5 seconds for a squash match, maybe.
So we're gonna get into this. I'm gonna open up the results, but Alfred, we got an ad.
We do have an ad. Look at Wrestling Inc. getting bigger every day. We have a new member of the Wrestling Inc. advertisement family, and it is a very familiar name to some of you. It is Save with Inc. Wrestling Inc. is helping make home ownership easy by partnering with Conrad Thompson and First Family Mortgage. If you're ready for your next home, hurry over to savewithinc.com now. Stop throwing away your money on rent. You can own a home with as little as no money down. Get into your next house and save with Inc. at savewithinc.com. Here are some more details from the one and only Tony Schiavone, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this clip.
Hello, wrestling fans. Tony Schiavone here for my good friends at First Family Mortgage and WrestlingInc.com. Maybe it's time to buy a house? Buying my house was one of the best decisions of my life. And I want to tell you, I want that for you and your family. It's a competitive market right now when it comes to buying a house. I suggest you lean on the advice of an expert. Complete the fast and easy form, and a member of Conrad's team will be in touch very soon.
Whose house? Your house. Go to savewithinc.com.
Save with Wink. WINC.
Save with Wink. I'm sorry. Okay. Savewithwink.com. Just as it's spelled on the lower third.
Yes, very exciting to have them as part of the Wrestling Inc. family. So let's talk about the NXT tonight. Oh, and what a night it was. I think that crowd was either people that traveled back from Mania today for NXT or people that didn't go and were a little bitter that they weren't there in Dallas.
Yeah, I think that might be what it was, is they're trying to kind of show up that crowd, but maybe there was some bitterness in there that they weren't part of that actual crowd. So they were just trying to do an impression of the Raw after Mania crowd, and they failed.
But Braun Breaker came out cutting a promo. Now, he did not win the title on Saturday. Won it back from Dolph last night on Raw. Just crazy to think about. And then came out tonight and cut a promo, and the crowd's chanting, "We want Ziggler," and the others chanting, "No, we don't."
Yeah, and yeah, that's part of that theme where you'll get that kind of split crowd. And it was unfortunate for Braun Breaker because this is a promo that he's cutting about how he's brought the title back home. We did it. We got that outsider. Yet these fans, when they're home, are chanting for the outsider. They're chanting for Dolph Ziggler, even though the story is supposed to be that he's brought the title home and he's kept it home in NXT, and some main roster guy hasn't won it. But unfortunately, in these crowds, the main roster stars are always going to be seen as bigger stars. And I think we saw that play out for Stand and Deliver with Mandy Rose getting a huge reaction from that crowd, and them cheering for really the main roster stars over the NXT guys.
Well, he's interrupted by Gunther tonight, who challenges him for a match, and it became a title match. I thought it was a title match, but then they made clear it was a title match. I could see this before that ending. I could have seen Gunther winning this tonight and Braun going to the main roster.
Sure,
based on Raw.
Yeah, I could think of something like that. I mean, I thought that might have been something that happened tonight. I was really surprised that they actually gave this whole match away and everything in the finish. I thought this is your program for your next big show, or, they're not necessarily doing pay-per-views, but your next TV special, Gunther and Braun Breaker would be a great kind of one-on-one match, with Gunther getting the big win at Stand and Deliver. But nope.
Yeah, but because of the way they did the ending, I think maybe Braun's sticking around for all. Either that or maybe Harland is going to be our new champion with Gacy as his mouthpiece.
Oh, Lord. I mean, I could see Braun sticking around. I think he should. I know that they're high on him. And listen, he gets to be on Raw. They had him in a match on Raw. If they want him on the main roster, I think what they're doing is smart, is you have him in these showcase matches as the NXT champion, and then eventually you ease him in on the Raw roster. He can still get, quote-unquote, called up and compete on Raw while still wrestling for NXT. I think that's how they should do it with Braun for the foreseeable future.
Well, last night on Raw was the best Raw crowd for him to wrestle in front of, because they all knew NXT and him. He still didn't get a huge reaction. I mean, could you imagine if 6 years ago, the same night, we were all in the building and Enzo and Cass made their debut in Dallas, if Finn Balor had shown up and rematch Samoa Joe for the NXT title or something?
Yeah.
That would have blown the roof off the place.
Back when NXT was super hot, something like this would have been great if they were to take some of these guys in the Raw after Mania when you know that crowd's going to know them. And that could have changed the trajectory of how they're seen later on down the line. I think if Vince would have seen how some of these Raw after Mania crowds would have reacted to some of the older NXT guard, I think he's looking at that like, man, maybe when we call this guy up, we should really give him a push.
Yeah. It's a very different time. It's very, very weird. Well, Creed took on Imperium tonight, and Creed got a win. Bad night for Imperium. How much longer is Imperium together after these losses?
I mean, I think they're all going to be together, especially the tag team is going to be together. I don't know what they would do as singles. I mean, they really don't. I know all the professional wrestling people love them. They didn't do nothing for me. They have no personality. I know they're supposed to be these like henchmen who are just kind of serious, and they play the role well, and they're great wrestlers. Their wrestling looks fantastic. I don't care. I can never tell them apart. I don't care about Imperium. Make me care. I want them to make me care about them somehow. I just don't. I care about Walter, and I think they're good henchmen for him. But when they're wrestling, who gives a shit? But the Creed brothers looked fine.
Do you think the average wrestling fan gets the Julius and Brutus reference with their names?
It's very literature. It's a Greek mythology. I think maybe if they think about it enough, yeah, I think it's broad enough that they should get it.
Yeah, well, we just need Brutus to portray Julius and get an et tu Brute.
Because WWE has some cliche line when they split up, like, et tu Brutus.
Stellar Justin Lopez, $4.99. You take your time with Braun. My fear is he goes to the main roster. This soon they'll push him down on through, he'll get rejected like Roman was. I mean, the main roster is just in a weird place right now. In fact, Roman is part of the reason why WWE, the main roster, is in such a weird predicament. And now if, Brock's gone, so we've got like one guy, best to hell hope his triceps doing okay. Because there's no one else. I mean, this isn't me like promo wise. This is like just the legit facts. There was no one else on his level in terms of how WWE books them or pushes them,
Yeah, and I could see what Justin's saying playing out. I mean, kind of to the point earlier in terms of when these things get leaked out that people know that the office is high on somebody. And I don't agree with this, by the way. It's very counterintuitive by this wrestling fan base. But when they find out that somebody is going to get pushed, they tend to reject it. They tend to kind of look at that as, well, why is he getting pushed over my favorite wrestler? And so hopefully, because I think everybody understands that they're high on Braun Breaker, but hopefully they don't do too much too soon with him.
Well, Creed got attacked tonight after the match, and we finally learned, I don't know what this had to do with the Boston area code, but Pretty Deadly from NXT UK.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of the Boston area code. Are they talking about like the Tea Party days when England still owned Boston? Like what? It's the opposite. I don't know what the connection is for the 761 area code and these gentlemen, Pretty Deadly.
Now, Pretty Deadly, they have a really good look, but they also kind of look like Manchester's hottest DJs from the early 90s.
They do.
Like they're opening for the Chemical Brothers, across Europe this fall.
I will say this stylistically, I think this is going to be a lot of fun because the Creed brothers are like the opposite of these guys. Pretty Deadly. They're like borderline metrosexual, pretty boys with their long hair. I've seen enough of them in NXT UK, not too much, but I've seen a couple of the matches. They're really one of the guys who stood out to me when I watched a couple of episodes of NXT UK. This is during the pandemic when there was nothing going on. I was watching all the wrestling. They stood out to me, and I think they're going to be good for the Creed brothers in terms of a feud because they're just so different than the Creed brothers.
And by the way, I want everyone to know this, that when I affectionately make fun of something, I hope people can see the difference of me affectionately making fun of something that I like versus like just genuinely despising something like Joe Gacy. like bring me Pretty Deadly as like the white Milli Vanilli, and I am here for it.
We get like a lip syncing scandal?
No, but they look like Savage Garden. Like these guys are very attractive, very kind of throwback look. And if they can wrestle, you know what? I'm on board. That's all I need to see.
The white Milli Vanilli might be a fire gimmick for these guys. I kind of like that.
Well, I was just looking at some of the photos of them online and like the way they dress and whatnot. I was just kind of like, it's got like, they look like a pop duo.
Yeah, they do. It's very Euro. There's something. These guys have something. I think they're going to be good heels because obviously this crowd didn't seem to know them too well, which, they're NXT UK guys who I'm sure this crowd doesn't watch too much of it. But if they develop these guys on TV, I think they're going to be something.
Yeah. No, and even Pretty Deadly is a name. It's like Pretty Poison. It is sort of like a late 80s pop dance name, but I like it. I'm into it. I thought they looked good in their attack tonight. I'm actually really excited to learn more about them and see their matches and their former NXT UK tag champs. In fact, they used to be Lewis Halley and Sam Stoker, but now they're Elton Prince and Kit Wilson.
What's the second one's name?
Elton Prince and Kit Wilson.
So these are just names of like 80s stars.
Oh man. But this is going to be good. We saw Toxic Attraction backstage cutting a promo, not happy about losing their titles. We saw Cameron Grimes. We saw Lash Legend preparing the back and Nikita Lyons getting ready. Then we had Grimes cut out and cut a promo talking about winning the NXT North American Championship, and he's confronted by Solo Sikoa. So they're going to face each other next week for that championship. What do you think about Grimes's win?
I like Grimes's win. I love me some Cameron Grimes. Once upon a time, I picked him as the person who was going to break out the most coming out of the pandemic. And, I feel like he did a great job, but this iteration of Cameron Grimes where he's more human and grounded is not doing it for me. I think this guy, he's got so much charisma and he's such a character that they just need to let him loose. And I actually do think this is going to be one of the rare times where we see somebody defend a title for the first time and lose it. I think Solo Sikoa is winning this match.
The mistake with Cameron Grimes is like we watched 4 Ernest Goes to Camp movies, and then we said, but who's Ernest as a person?
Ernest has an existential crisis.
Yes, we need to know Ernest, and we have to understand him and what makes him and his relationship with Vern, and that will really take it to the next level.
That's actually like the perfect analogy for this.
By the way, Ernest Goes to Jail is legitimately a great comedic film.
I think that was my favorite of all the Ernest films.
Because he plays 2 roles. He plays the death row inmate as well, and he does a fantastic job playing both roles. It's very good. It's very, very good. So Cameron Grimes, the Ernest P. Worrell of WWE NXT 2.0. Let's get to know him as a person and figure out what makes him tick.
Hopefully, if he loses, hopefully that opens something up in him and he changes his character because of it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. CJ Hennessy, Buck 99, Elton Prince, wasn't that Velveteen Dream?
I mean, if you looked at his ring gear, it's kind of what he was going for.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's something there. There's something there. People are saying they're not getting audio. Well, one person said that. I'm just checking and making sure now on this feed. Oh, no, I'm hearing audio. There we go. So, but no, with Solo Sikoa and Cameron Grimes, I think that'll be really good. Joe Gacy got 3 promo segments technically tonight, 2 backstage with Harland. Can we talk about this?
Let's talk about it.
So Joe Gacy is at Dealey Plaza on the grassy knoll because I guess they couldn't get into the book depository. And is saying that in the time of tragedy, it was amazing how America came together, and then worked himself through a maze about how if we don't all learn to love one another, something bad might have to happen again. Like, it was a weird threat that he was making. And like, did they just think, oh, it's been almost 60 years. Like, no one's going to get upset about the JFK assassination.
I did exactly what they thought. I think they've thought that it's been litigated enough to where we could finally joke about it. Okay, we were complaining last week that Joe Gacy kind of lost his teeth and he wasn't really edgy anymore. He was just some guy who was saying inclusiveness and we didn't know what he meant. At least they're going the edgy route again with him. I mean, I know it's kind of
60-year-old heat. 60-year-old heat at this point.
Very outdated reference, but I get why they did it. They're in Dallas. So I guess they figured, well, if we're going to be edgy with this guy, what's the edgiest thing you could do in Dallas? A Dallas Cowboy joke or Dealey Plaza? And they chose Dealey Plaza, I guess.
Now, I did have to admit, when I was trying to make the joke about the insensitivity, even making the joke about the insensitivity, I had to go backwards, further away. I had to say, where is he going to be next? Ford's Theater, perhaps, Pearl Harbor. I had to go back. Couldn't go. No, see, you can't go forward because then you're legitimately going to offend someone. If JFK is on the precipice, you can't go. You got to go back. You got to go further back.
So we're going to get like a Lindenberg promo from Joe Gacy.
That would make perfect sense. Perfect sense. But okay. Also, though, because he didn't spell it out, I think half the audience was like, "When the fuck is he talking about?" Like, it's only us older folks that even understood this.
Yeah, like you were talking about the Julius and Brutus reference. Yeah. I think far less people would get a Dealey Plaza reference. Although the average audience of NXT is like 63. So who are we kidding here? Maybe the 62-year-olds were like, oh, I remember being a kid when that happened.
Oh, shit. And you know what the really funny part is? Joe Gacy's real last name is Ruby, like Jack Ruby.
Really?
Yeah, which is the Americanized version of my last name, Rubenstein, because Jack Ruby, I believe, his original name was some variation of Rubenstein. Yeah, Joe Gacy is Joseph Ruby. Holy shit. That even makes this more just like...
So, like, Joe Gacy is your Ezekiel. Is that what's going to happen?
I would love to be in a tag team with Joe Gacy.
That'd be fire.
Now, you would just be a lot of me like, you can't say that, dude. Like, you can't, or just like pick a side, man. You know, you really want to piss people off, say this. Yeah. And we really get the death threats and the hate mail. So I don't even know what these the first two promos were tonight, but it all makes sense when we saw the go home segment with what he did. We made sense where this was all building, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I never watched the movie JFK, the Oliver Stone film. Supposedly it's quite good, but I've never seen it.
Oliver Stone isn't really missed. You know what else is good that I think didn't get the respect it does is his film on George W. Bush. I thought was really good.
I didn't see that either. I heard that was good. Yeah. We got a backlog. You know, I finally watched for the first time the other night Moscow on the Hudson with Robin Williams. I'd never seen that before.
Okay.
And it's not a comedy. He plays a Russian immigrant, and they marketed it like a comedy in the 80s, but you watch it's actually like kind of a serious film. It was very nice though. And then last night, I don't know how they screwed this up. We watched I Come in Peace with Dolph Lundgren and Brian Benben, and there's an alien that keeps saying I come in peace and then like murdering people. And this was a boring, stupid film. This should have been like an awesome late 80s, early 90s buddy cop movie, and it was just ridiculous.
So like, not as good as Mars Attacks.
Well, no, it's anything as good. Mars Attacks, though, was a little different, you know. But buddy cop films, I think Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines is still the best. Then, you know, you got your Lethal Weapons, your Tango and Cash, everything on down from there.
Right. It's good.
Tango and Cash, highly underrated.
Rush Hour's in there.
Rush Hour's good. Yeah. I like a good buddy cop film. Yeah. In fact, we should have buddy cops in a tag team in NXT. They're police officers. They're undercover trying to bust Tony D'Angelo.
Well, they were trying to do something like that with the Fashion Police. I mean, they were kind of buddy cops. I mean,
explains why I love the Fashion Police.
Yeah.
I mean, they are missed. I don't know why they thought that was not worth the cost to keep them around for consistently great, not good television, consistently great television.
I agree.
So we got a recap of Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell in Dallas. Did they cut the belt reference from tonight's re-airing of this?
I didn't really look for it, but they might have. I didn't hear any reference to belt during this package.
Yeah, but they did Saturday. It was like one of the racier, edgier, more sexual references they've ever made. But then we had Duke Hudson versus Dexter Lumis follow this up, and then with a double count out, and just both couples going at it on the side of the ring.
We got some bukkake outside of the ring. Let's do it.
Softcore. Alfred.
Softcore bukkake, of course. All that USA Network could show us.
For couples.
And this is when the crowd chanted, "This is stupid," or they were chanting, "That was stupid," while they were rolling around outside. Those poor, like, I'm talking about the real people. I'm not talking about the characters. Like, whatever the real names are, Dexter, Indy, Duja, and Index must have felt like complete idiots rolling around together on the floor and having this crowd completely wholesale reject them.
How was the wedding segment so brilliant and this was so terrible?
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite. This is what they've been doing, is they've just been trying to find an excuse for all of them to. It feels like they're building to like being swingers. If I didn't know any better and I'm watching and I don't know WWE's tendencies, I'm thinking if I'm watching this in a vacuum, like, okay, so they're building to where they're going to switch partners, or like that's what it kind of seems like.
I would do the double entendre innuendo and being like, so next week we're gonna swap. Yeah, sure, let's switch it up. Let's swap. And then they have a mixed tag match with different partners.
So it's like It's like swinging, but like with the wrestling version.
Or it was like my idea where I legitimately miss swinging on a swing set and seeing how high I can go. And they should talk about they're going to try swinging next week. And then they go down to like, a park and they're just pushing each other on the swings. That's what I would do if I was in charge of NXT.
Dexter swinging on a swing set with just that deadpan face with Indy pushing him would be the funniest thing. Hilarious.
Somebody like HBK blocked me on Twitter. Somebody pitch HBK these ideas.
God, I'd be heartbroken if you did. A lot of famous people have me blocked. I'd be heartbroken if HBK was one of them.
No, HBK, JBL. There's like a few other ones where I think I just got tagged in something and they just blocked everybody.
Yeah.
It's terrible because HBK, I got ideas. I got ideas for you, Sean.
You're missing out, man.
Gonna help take NXT 2.0 back to the top.
It's not a lot of fame. It's a couple. It's not that much. It's mostly CM Punk.
CM Punk blocked you?
He's got a lot of people blocked though.
I'm still getting over William Shatner blocking me.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. But no, I need to make that get unblocked because I got gold. Because right now, and I tweeted this last night, NXT 2.0 is becoming the Windows Vista of NXT in that it's like, can we just downgrade back? I really liked the interface before. Yes, there are some good new features. I understand the benefits of this, but I'm just comfortable to what I'm used to working with. You know? I just
bring back Windows 98.
Dude, I kept Windows 98 installed on a machine till like 2005.
Good. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
It might have peaked then.
In fact, I had Windows XP installed on a machine up until about 3 years ago. Still, long after they even stopped supporting it. Not like my primary machines. But I say this about the Vista comparison. I'm trying to get used to Windows 11 from Windows 10 because I just got a new laptop. It's tough to adjust. It's tough to, and that's what NXT 2.0 is like. It's like a forced upgrade that we're not, entirely comfortable with yet. So the NXT Women's Tag Team title match, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. And hey, if you didn't like how this match turned out on Saturday, just wait a couple days because tonight Gigi and JC won it back. What did you think of the match?
I thought it was an okay match. I was kind of surprised that Raquel and Dakota lost the title. So now that means they've had 2 title reigns over 4 days. I think that might be a record. I don't think anybody in WWE history has had 2 title reigns and the combined reign is 4 days. It's definitely probably an NXT record. But it looks like they're going to break off into maybe they're going to get Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai back together because I always thought that they deserved to run with those tag team titles. And then Raquel might go off with Mandy Rose.
And it's weird that Wendy Chu wasn't in Stand and Deliver, like didn't get her big moment in this because she's the breakout star. I'm sorry, and I love Dakota Kai, love Raquel, but come on, like Wendy, like she's in the top 5 most over performers in NXT right now.
Yeah, and I thought her and Dakota were doing well. I think her and Dakota just watching. Listen, Raquel's great, and she's a great single star. I thought Dakota and Wendy Chu, just watching all the tag team matches, are a better team than Raquel and Dakota. I just think they have more, chemistry. They do more double team maneuvers. I just think they're better and they mesh better as a tag team. So I'd like to see them chase the title now. And then Raquel, I think, is just better as a single.
Yeah. And Dakota's going to face Mandy Rose next week for the women's title. A lot of championship matches next week. The men's tag title's on the line, North American Championship, so who knows?
It's almost like a TV special. The way they're doing, they usually don't do every title's going to be on the line unless they're doing some pay-per-view.
Yeah. Man, Gacy with this promo really was leaning into it, talking about chaos defining a person, what happens when your family, what something happens to that. Like this just all makes sense in hindsight. The master plan of Joe Gacy.
Yeah.
Then we had AJ Galante. Okay, so what's AJ Galante's story? I was reading about this. His father worked in sanitation and bought him a minor league hockey team that was one of the most violent hockey teams in the minor leagues. Was AJ like on a reality show or something?
Look, he was a GM of the Thrashers, is what I'm hearing about AJ Galante.
But he's that famous, just as like he's not from reality TV. Like, what's the reason why? Was he just something on like a Netflix show? Why should somebody know who he is?
Yeah, I don't know who he is, and I saw a lot of people actually kind of say, "Oh my God, it's AJ Galante." And I think it is when he was a GM for this hockey team, because I did look him up. Like, am I supposed to know this guy during Stand and Deliver? And that's what I found out about him, is that the hockey background.
Yeah. Well, I want to know about anyone that's associating with Tony D'Angelo. Oh, maybe he's wearing a wire. Maybe he's going to turn state's evidence on Tony D'Angelo.
AJ the Rat.
Yes. Solid angle. But AJ was initiating Tony tonight as the Don of NXT.
Well, Don, the sun set on Don tonight for AJ Galante, because that was it was not the great. He was clearly struggling to remember his line. This poor guy. He probably, listen, it's his first time cutting a promo, and they gave him a long promo to cut. This big formal thing that was supposed to be initiating Tony, and so listen, they got through it. They did what they did, and moving forward until he gets more comfortable on the mic, maybe keep it short for AJ Galante.
Yeah, just a little much. But I thought this with Tony. I felt like the crowd was turning on Tony a little bit tonight because he didn't thank us in Wrestling Inc.
Yes, I think that's what the crowd was furious with, is that, he's got to thank his day ones. If you don't have your day ones, you got nothing. And we were his day ones. So we should have been top of mind in that promo.
Tony, it's all about respect. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
Like NSYNC tried to tell us in the song Pop. But no, I think some thanks would be nice. But what does he do now that he's the Don? And then this was a little uncomfortable running into Santos Escobar and the way that they were portraying Santos Escobar being like, I know a thing or two about wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But this could be a good feud nonetheless. But still, this could get very uncomfortable very quick.
Yeah, I would like to see Tony D'Angelo's family built up a little more before he goes at Legado del Fantasma. I do expect maybe more people to come and join Tony D'Angelo in his stable so that he can fight with Legado del Fantasma. But it'll be interesting because it's not going to be a title. I was expecting him to be in the Joe Gacy role, really, honestly, to now start going after Braun Breaker, maybe go after the North American title. But they're kind of holding it off. And I think that's kind of good because maybe they're not going to let him chase a title until he's ready to win it.
Well, I think Santos is going to be running for the Don of NXT. It's going to be like the $1 million title sort of thing.
That's like a sentimental title. Are they going to give him a ring now? Are they going to do the diamond ring thing where he gets a ring on his pinky to signify that he's a Don?
Yes. We shall see. Here we go. No, nothing. Can't complain about this at all. Nikita Lyons versus Lash Legend.
Yeah, I'll admit I was very nervous that these two were getting together in terms of, level experience. They can pull off a whole match without it falling apart. It was fine. I thought it was just fine. Not a perfect match. Nikita Lyons looks very good. Lash Legend is like an all-world athlete, so I'm not worried about her eventually catching on. So she's going to catch on. I know it's early, and, all these wrestling fans, get your shots in. They hate strangers. Get your shots in now about the Lash Legend because, this time of the year, she sticks with it. There's no way I see her not improving immensely. But Nikita Lyons has got something. I really like Nikita, and I think they should really be building her up and kind of bringing her along slowly. But she's doing well.
These were two remarkably athletic women given time to have a real match with a lot of back and forth. I think they both have huge star quality. Was it the best match we've seen in the last couple of days? No, but it was really good. It was really solid. And I hope it was the start of the feud. I hope they get to keep working this at the Performance Center and really show what they can do tonight. I hope was, an appetizer for what we're going to see with a longer feud with them, because I don't think they got anywhere else to put either of them right now. They're in their own little island aside from everything that's going on with Toxic Attraction.
Yeah, you're right. And I really liked what Lash is doing with that talk show. I thought that was a great way to use her while she learns, the business in terms of full-length wrestling matches and stuff like that. I think Lash Legend is a great character. I think she's good at talking. I think she's great at her role in terms of that Wendy Williams type host. So I think they should be doing more of that to get her over before she goes in there and wrestles these long matches.
And after she hit that suplex tonight, people chanting Suplex City and Nikita. Man, Nikita is like... she could fulfill on all the promise, I think, of what they wanted Nia Jax to be. Because I think Nikita's got just she's better in the ring.
Yes, moves better, and a lot crisper. And she does a lot of these kind of shoot fighting type moves, but doesn't hurt anybody. But just hits right on the money. it's not easy to hit some of these kicks that she's hitting, and some of the stuff they're letting her do is not easy. So it shows that A, they've got faith in her to pull this off, and B, she's got a lot of great body control in terms of being able to do these karate type moves and pulling her punches and kicks.
Yeah, very precise, very smooth, like everything chains together. I think this could be really good if they just keep this going. I was impressed with this, and I like the spot that they got tonight. I thought that was pretty good. But then we got the title match for the NXT title, Gunther versus Braun Breaker. I got to admit, I thought Gunther was going to win this and Braun's going to the main roster. They let them go for like a good 15 or 20 minutes. Braun, though, retained the win. So let me ask you, do you think Gunther, Walter, the dominant force in NXT and NXT UK, I feel like that's dead now with Gunther because, he's just not, it's not the same, man.
Yeah, I don't know what this was because I felt like they were really building up Gunther, and apparently this is what they were building him up for, and I don't agree with it because he's winning on TV, he's chopping the hell out of people, he's got those loud chops, he's got this air of invincibility, and I don't agree with beating him at this point. And I thought he was going to be on this long winning streak until you get Braun versus Gunther, which I think could be a match that you build up on TV for a nice rating. But the fact that they did this unannounced and they just beat Gunther, I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure they've got plans for him. But I didn't think this was it, and I think he took a couple of steps back tonight.
Ooh, Iron Meds, good call. That Lash and Nikita would make a great tag team. They would just destroy the women's division in NXT as a tag team.
Yeah, that might be a great way to use them in terms of this kind of like a destructive, dominant tag team that just beats the hell out of people. Kind of like what they were doing with Luke Harper and Eric. Yeah, Nia Tamina, but like the Bludgeon Brothers, where they were these two monsters. And I thought they did a good job of that. Yeah,
man. No, I think that would be good for now because the problem is you cannot put Nikita in a singles match. I'm sorry, against any single member of Toxic Attraction. Maybe Raquel. Raquel maybe looks like she could really hold her own with Nikita, but just in terms of like physical dominance, you're really going to have to work hard to tell a story for Nikita to lose to someone that is just faster than, stronger than, and has such dominance over, Yeah.
And I even think this match between Nikita and Lash Legend, they could have held off on, and because I want to see Nikita just squash people. I think she's impressive enough to where just seeing her squash people and kind of throw people around, kick the hell out of them, that's impressive. So if they do that for a month or two, they'll really build her up better.
And if I'm going to give any note, she almost needs to stop having such a good time. When she's like mouthing along with her entrance music and stuff, like you could tell, like, get it. You're living the dream. I'm very happy for you. I'm very happy this is all going so well, but now we need to start talking about character.
Yeah, it is kind of jarring that she is playing a monster heel, but her gimmick is kind of having a good time rapping up lyrics for a song because she's saying it. It is a little jarring. I'll give you that. That was always my thing with Raquel, actually. Raquel's got this beautiful smile and stuff like that, but I think she's got such a great face in terms of an imposing person when she's angry. She's like got this terrifying angry face, but they insist on having her smile and do all that stuff, and I think it takes away from it.
It's the same problem there with Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman looked menacing the first time he was around Alexa, and he smiled, and I saw those dimples. I just wanted to grab those cheeks.
Right? Yeah, he looks like a baby.
Yeah, he legitimately has a baby face.
Yeah.
But no, I think, and Nikita and Lash together could pull off being kind of like happy badasses, just sort of dominating the entire women's division as a tag team. Sergio Cardenas about Gunther saying his mama named him Walter. I'm going to call him
Walter. Did you notice the crowd started chanting for Gunther? They're starting to turn in terms of this crowd calling him Gunther.
Yeah. Well, great. The good news is he's Gunther. Bad news is Gunther lost to Braun Breaker tonight. And it's an afterthought. There ain't going to be no rematch because Joe Gacy and Harlan got Braun Breaker's father kidnapped. The way they started that promo with saying, like, this is your dad, and then zoomed out to him tied up, that is one of the best production shots NXT has ever done.
Absolutely. I thought this was a good way to go off the air. They said, we're going to teach an old dog new tricks. So here's what I'm thinking for this is that by next week, they have Rick Steiner fully trained as like a best in show dog, the Westminster Dog Show, which does air on USA Network. And we open NXT next week with a dog obstacle course that Rick Steiner, he runs between the sticks, he goes up the stairs, he does all that stuff. and then it's broken up by Braun Breaker. I think that's how you open NXT next week.
Wow. There you go.
Best in show, Ricard Steiner.
I mean, this main event was good tonight. But yeah, I think with Braun, I feel like we're gonna keep getting this. Should we get too invested in this? Like I feel like every single feud he's gonna be in could be his swan song for the foreseeable future, because it does seem like he's got the most upward mobility of anyone in there. Kelvin R. Alexander, $5 saying Nikita's absolutely babyface. She is, but I wonder though. You almost need to present her though as like a stone cold, like a cool baby face. And let me give you an example. Someone in the chat was talking about Rhea Ripley. And by the way, like, take my money, Rhea Ripley versus Nikita Lyons. That would be a fantastic program. The number one thing that killed Rhea was when they did for her match at Charlotte for the NXT championship, when they had Rhea in WrestleMania Stadium, tearing up, talking about living the dream. Like, she's a dominant like Rhea was never a heel. In my opinion, Rhea was, even when they were holding her up, remember after she won the NXT women's title and she was the champion of NXT, she was still a badass babyface. She was a hero, but she wasn't like a bad guy. And I think with Nikita, you could do her as, she has to be like a Stone Cold or a Han Solo type badass. I don't think you want her like doing the aw shucks thing.
Yeah. Kind of like an anti-hero.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about her original promo. My dad was a rock star. My mom was a groupie. I grew up on the road. I was beating people up. And my dad said, yo, you got to stop beating people up.
Yeah, that's not a smiling babyface story.
Yeah. So I started dancing. I started rapping. Let's not focus on the freestyle promo she caught, but she is indeed living her truth. And in everything that they've done since then, though, I mean, she's cool, man. Like, she is cool. And I think that there is a time in any wrestler's career when you want to get the sense that they're living their childhood dream. But if you do that too soon, I'm not here to watch somebody like live it out because they're such a fan of the business and they love the business. First and foremost, you're here because you're very talented and you earn your spot and you're good at what you do.
Yeah. And another thing I will say is they're really getting that pin over for an assortment of reasons, but that split-legged pin that she has, like, the day, if they do this right, the day somebody kicks out of that, it's going to be an enormous pop, because that's when you know it's over, and it's a very unique pin, and she's beating everybody with it. So they're doing a good job building that up to where when she does have one of these epic matches, a cool spot will be if somebody kicks out of that.
And I don't see anyone kicking out of that right now.
Hopefully not for a long time. Hopefully they go like a year or so without anybody kicking out of that.
Yeah, it's going to be, but like, you can't tell, and look, and I love Cora Jade, but you cannot tell me Cora Jade could get out of that. Like, has like the strength. If Nikita is wrestling as dominant as she is, you can't tell me that it's going to be credible to have, like, you're going to really have to make me believe that somebody can go toe-to. Lash actually looks like she does have the prowess and physicality to do it.
Yeah. Cora Jade would be a tough sell. They'd need like a prostate doctor to get her out of there in terms of her actually getting out of
Christ.
It makes all the differences,
No, that's the Wrestling Inc. podcast this week, folks.
Oh, come on. I'm just saying. It's some big cheeks that you got there, There's some great prostate doctors in Florida, I hear. So,
So when you send your angry tweets to Alfred and you're typing at "this is nasty," you should just have a light bulb go off and be like, with the Twitter name like that, can I really?
Yeah.
Can I really? Like,
I'm just being on brand here. Oh man.
Anyhow, no, I think Gunther versus Braun tonight, it was a good main event. Nikita versus Lash, like you said, I was worried about that because neither of them has a huge amount of experience. They got like the money slot tonight in the show to be going on when they did. And yeah, like this was good tonight. I enjoyed this more than what I saw of Raw last night. And actually, you know what? I'm going to say this, I'll go one further. I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Stand and Deliver. Stand and Deliver was okay.
I can see that. I mean, Stand and Deliver, just because of the ladder match, I thought was excellent. I thought that put it over the top. But I will say, in terms of enjoyment level, in terms of a show that seemed like more was going on, comparing this to Raw, I felt like we learned more on tonight's show in terms of where they're going moving forward. There were more angles that were done. Raw built up to Roman Reigns saying, "Stay tuned for SmackDown, then I'll tell you what happens." This had a couple of angles. Like this had a few angles on it that I thought were pretty good.
Could you imagine if at the end of Raw, Brock Lesnar had kidnapped like Roman's family?
Yeah, Alpha and CK's got him locked up.
Yeah. No, he had The Rock. If we had The Rock come on screen, he'd go like, "Roman, it's your cousin The Rock," and then we zoomed out and Brock Lesnar has The Rock tied up. Holy shit. That would have been the ending to all endings.
Those people would have just been pissed that, The Rock isn't in the building. It's like, wait, you got The Rock and he's backstage?
Pure WWE. That would have been awesome. But no, this caps a pretty good 5-day run of wrestling. I mean, SmackDown Friday was nothing. Stand and Deliver, the ladder match, you're right, was really good. A lot of the rest, though, and I mean, they didn't sell out American Airlines. They tarped off the top.
Oh yeah, they were not. I mean, it's a big crowd for what NXT 2.0 is used to, but it was not for American Airlines Center.
Not what it used to be.
Nothing.
Yeah, but Mania. What was your favorite thing of Mania this weekend?
I thought Pat McAfee stuff was incredible. I love the Austin stuff and whatnot, but I thought just the presentation of Pat McAfee, everything until that horrible match with Vince where they beat him, which I still don't understand. I just thought that moment with Pat McAfee, the things that I went back and watched, it was that Bianca and Becky Lynch, I'm ready to say, is the greatest women's match in WrestleMania history. I don't even think it's that close. It is kind of close, but I think that is the greatest women's match in WrestleMania history, Bianca. And it's already one of like my favorite matches of the year. And I've watched it a few times. So that was one of my favorites. But the Pat McAfee stuff, just how over this guy was to this crowd with the White Stripes, Seven Nation Army. And they just did a great job with him.
Yeah. But yeah, Becky and Bianca was by far my favorite thing this weekend.
Incredible match.
The returns were, I mean, like, look, Cody and Stone Cold were great, but we knew that was happening. Had that been a true surprise? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes think about that. And I was reading a tweet from Nick Hausman. Shout out to him with Winkley Daily, the Wrestling Daily. Tune into that. But Nick Hausman was saying that he was in the building and he went out to watch with fans. He said there were a lot of fans because this is WrestleMania. You're getting more of a casual crowd. He said there were a lot of people who legitimately did not know that Cody was coming out. And he was like, all right, I'm ready to see Cody. And they were like, what? He's not? No, he's in AEW. And when he came out, they were legitimately surprised. And I was so jealous that I wasn't one of those people who isn't. That's one of the downfalls of covering it the way we do, Glenn, is that we know all the stuff that's rumored. I wish that I didn't know that Cody was coming, or I didn't know that Austin was going to be. The Austin thing was a surprise. I didn't think he was going to wrestle a full-blown match like that, so it was kind of surprise. But
when he took that bump on the concrete, that's when I was like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I thought this was good. I thought he was just going to ragdoll Kevin around. Kevin was going to sell for him like crazy.
A suplex onto the concrete with a guy who has neck issues. That is like wild.
Yeah. So there you go. Hope everyone had a good WrestleMania weekend. AEW Dynamite coverage tomorrow. Let's see how they follow this up. And we'll be back on Friday. Until then, everybody take care. And we'll see you next time on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Have a good one.